Give us a second here. All right. Okay, so we're back live here. This is Pete Erickson, the founder of Modev and the creator of Voice Summit, back with another speaker interview. We have almost 300 speakers at this year's Voice Summit conference, and we're going to do our best to get to as many of them as we can in advance. But we are really pleased this morning to be speaking with Harjinder Sandhu. He's the CEO and founder of Secara. Harjinder, good morning.
Good morning. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, you as well. And I think that, one of the things that's a lot of fun for us as event organizers is this voice first era. A lot of people call it new, but when I read your background, I see that you've been at this for quite a while, I think a couple decades. Tell us a little bit about you and Secara, and just share a little bit about your deep background in this space.
Sure. So I do go back a long ways in this space. I co-founded a company about 20 years ago. I left academia. I used to be a professor of computer science, left academia to found a company that tried to apply speech recognition in the space of medical dictation. 20 years ago, physicians used to largely do dictation in order to capture their notes that they needed to do for billing purposes. And what we did was we started taking speech recognition and applying it to those dictations and taking the transcriptionists that would be normally typing those notes up and basically just turned them into editors. So we did that for a number of years. We also built a lot of tools. These days it's called AI. Back then it was just called NLP. We built NLP tools to take information out of those narrative notes that doctors were creating and turn them into discrete data. So we did that for a long time. We sold that company to Nuance, and I spent a number of years doing the same kind of work in Nuance as the VP Chief Technologist for the healthcare division.
Wow, that's quite a background. And for those of you, a couple things: NLP, natural language processing. And I think what's kind of interesting is you mentioned that it was called NLP back then. It's called AI now. Do you feel like everything is sort of moving into that domain where AI is sort of like this new broad definition of the OS that's underlying all this new technology?
I think so. I think a lot of the technologies that have been germinating for a lot of years, going all the way back into the 70s and 80s even, are finally becoming real. Back 20 years ago, people didn't like to use the word AI largely because there was a lot of hype around AI and it largely failed in that promise. And now I think especially in the last decade or so, when you see a lot of real applications of machine learning, especially, and NLP, and people are now kind of seeing the reality of it. And AI has become this general term for all of the cool new technologies of things that we didn't think were possible, even a decade ago.
Right. We sometimes we say, AI is the new OS. And so now you've got these competing OSs in the market, that are coming in. Let's talk a little bit about Secara and what you all are up to. So what do you, I noticed that you focus largely on the healthcare space. Give us a sense of what you're working on.
So the problem that we set out to solve was a problem that's actually near and dear for most doctors. In fact, if not all doctors in this country. Today, doctors spend an inordinate amount of time typing up their notes for each patient visit. So for any given visit, that might be spending about 10 or 15 minutes per patient writing those notes up, putting them into the electronic medical record. And more often than not, they're spending their evening times doing this because they just can't get through them during the days. And so the speech recognition work that we had done, that I had spent a lot of years on, wasn't actually changing the equation that much. Physicians, when they were using speech recognition, were still staring at a screen trying to get their notes completed. And so what we started doing was thinking about, well, what's the next generation of this? What needs to happen is we need to create a screen-free experience for physicians so that they can just sit and talk to their patients, and we can listen in on those conversations, and we can extract information and turn that into the notes that they actually need, and the data that needs to go into the electronic medical record. And so that's what Secara is focused on, is creating data from those conversations, and then building a platform that we can leverage that data for actually bigger and broader applications.
Interesting. And how long has the company been in existence?
So we started about 3 years ago.
Great. So you're really hitting this market, I think, at an interesting time. In the healthcare space, when we launched Voice Summit, we didn't launch it as a healthcare event, but a large amount of our content, our speakers and our attendees are in that sector, and it seems to us, just if you use our conference as a data point, that the healthcare industry is really leaning forward to try to understand how can this voice first era and the evolution of AI and the maturity of AI really improve both operations and patient outcomes. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, so healthcare actually has always been one of the places where speech recognition in particular was always at the forefront, largely because it solves such a huge pain point. As I said, doctors have to spend hours writing up notes. And so even 20 years ago when we started, healthcare was a great place because there was a willingness to try something that wasn't necessarily completely ready, because doctors just wanted anything that could work. And there was a willingness to pay for anything that would improve their productivity. And this is unlike a lot of other domains where you can think about voice as, in a lot of industries, it's a nice feature, but it's not an essential. It doesn't really change the nature of the day for a person that uses it. But here in healthcare, it's actually very transformative. Speech recognition was transformative, and now this new AI platform, this interactions that doctors can have with electronic medical records, these are transformative things that change the way not only that doctors interact with systems, with electronic medical record systems and other systems, but actually change the fundamental nature of the way doctors interact with patients. And so this is near and dear to the hearts of what actually happens for doctors and for many other providers in healthcare.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I think doctor burnout is a huge issue that so many people are trying to solve, and it sounds like this has a lot of promise because it doesn't take away from the workflow of care, right? It happens as a result of the care, and I think that's a really noble pursuit. So I'm going to share. Let me just share real quickly the screen here, just in terms of where you are going to be speaking. You have a couple speaking slots at Voice Summit. So it looks like you're on a panel, integrating voice into value-based care, triumphs and challenges. That is Tuesday, July 23rd at 3 to 3:45 p.m. Looks like you're on with some great co-panelists there. Dr. Terry Fisher, of course, from Canada, and as well as Freddie Feldman, Heidi Culberson, Mahek Shah. It's a really great panel. Tell us a little bit about that, integrating voice into value-based healthcare. What do you think that really means?
Integrating voice into value-based healthcare. So there's a number of different ways to parse this. Voice as an experience in the healthcare, in the clinic, is, as I said, it's an essential part of the experience. A lot of times what physicians are doing in trying to create notes is they're just trying to get through in order to document what needs to happen for the purposes of billing. What a lot of value-based care is driving at is measuring outcomes, measuring performance. And a lot of that data is actually not being captured today. And so one of the things that we think about as we build this platform that is listening in on what doctors are doing with patients and trying to extract meaning from those conversations is, can we derive from those conversations a lot of the metrics, a lot of the data that can actually help not only transform, again, the way doctors are interacting with systems, but actually transform the way that they're providing care and enhance care. And so we think about things like care gap closures. If a doctor is sitting in front of a patient, they can't possibly be thinking about all the different things that need to happen for that patient if that patient is there for a particular acute issues, but our systems can. And our systems can be reminding those doctors that, hey, this patient actually should, even though that they're here for an ankle sprain, you really should talk to them about exercise counseling because of this history they have of X, or it's time for their colonoscopy and you should really remind them of that. And so there's a lot of things that we can do as a platform, and not just us, but a lot of the new platforms that are deriving care from a data perspective that can enhance the way that the doctors are actually providing care.
Well, I think it's a really important part of this, really this emerging era. And I think what I like to also see on this schedule is that you're going to be giving what we call one of our VED talks, which is fashioned after the TED Talk series, but a 12.5-minute talk that you're going to give on voice AI in medicine, past and future. If you haven't visited the website yet, voicesummit.ai, Harjinder is going to be on a panel. He's also giving a VED talk on Wednesday, July 24th from 1 to 1:15 p.m. in that time slot there. Harjinder, we really look forward to that as well, because I think that's a visionary talk that you will reflect your deep history, a couple decades in this space, and then where things are headed. So we really appreciate your taking some time this morning to chat with us and get to know you. And I really look forward to seeing you at the end of July in Newark, New Jersey.
That's great. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Excellent. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, voicesummit.ai. Prices go up tomorrow. Good chance to get your tickets now, and look forward to seeing you in Newark if you do. Cheers.
Bye.